Good evening. Welcome to Conversation with Rickford Burke. This is Rickford Burke in New York, of course. Share the link. You know the drill. Share the link. And for those of you who have not liked and followed these pages on Facebook or subscribed to my YouTube page, I invite you to do so right now. So go to the bell, subscribe, get the notification when I'm on, and go to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube page. I'll keep reminding you of that during the entire course of the broadcast. Share the link. For those of you watching from North America here, I could see the sunlight is still out, so good afternoon or good evening. On the West Coast, it's definitely good afternoon. In Canada, wherever you are, Mexico, in North America, wherever you are in North America, good evening or good afternoon. Those of you in the rest of the world, good night. Whether you're in Guyana, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Europe or Africa, well, Africa and Europe, it might be good morning. So share the link. Wherever you are, text me, let me know where you're watching from. Share the link, and as usual, I'll be back in 60 seconds. Share the link. All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to Conversation with Rickford Burke. This is Rickford Burke in New York. Everybody keep sharing the link. I have a little hoarse voice tonight. Keep sharing the link. I see 3,000 of you here on so far. Share the link. Each one of you share the link to 20 other people, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook Messenger, email, WhatsApp. Just share this link all across your social media platforms. Tonight we have two very important topics we want to talk about. Don't want to keep you too long. Wouldn't go more than 60 minutes, I promise you, because I have to go somewhere else when I'm done here. But tonight we want to talk about the appointment, or the unconstitutional appointment of Clifford Hicken as acting police commissioner. And also, again, we want to revisit the subject of the police failure, Guyana Police Force failure. Absolute refusal, not even failure, absolute refusal to arrest attorney at law Nirvan Singh for assaulting. I got a message, somebody just sent me a message here, for allegedly assaulting a policewoman. So we're going to deal with these two topics tonight. And my guest for today is none other than Mr. Paul Slow. He's everybody knows Paul Slow, former assistant commissioner of police, actually former acting deputy police commissioner, and former chairman of the Police Service Commission. Mr. Slow, good night. Thank you for joining the program. And also tell, you have a program as well on social media. Could you tell our listeners when is the name of that program and when it's aired? I'm not sure if Mr. Slow is hearing me. Can you hear me? Mr. Slow, can you hear me?
I can't hear what you're saying. If you're hearing me, you're broken up and it's dragging and delaying.
Really? All right. So our technical guys would look at that. Let's see. Guys, can you work on Mr. Slow's? Let's try again. Mr. Slow, can you hear me? Same thing.
I can hear you now, but what is happening is it is dragging. It is dragging and it is breaking up your end. I don't know if you're hearing me clearly.
I'm hearing you very clearly. So I think it's the internet in Guyana. So let's. So our technical guys are working on that. Can you hear me now, Mrs. Slow? If you hear me, try logging out and logging on back. See if we can clear that up. Mrs. Slow, the technician is asking me if you could log out back and log in. All right, so we have a technical issue there. Mrs. Slow is not hearing me. We're going to try to get that rectified. Let's take a quick break and be back in 60 seconds. All right. Again, welcome back to Conversation with Rickford Burke. Today we're talking about the unconstitutional appointment of Clifford Hicken as acting police commissioner. And our guest is former Deputy Assistant Police Commissioner, Deputy Police Commissioner Paul Slow, and who is also the former chairman of the Police Service Commission. I see Mr. Slow is back with us. Again, let us try to see. Keep sharing the link, everybody. Keep sharing the link. Let us try to see if you can hear us now. Mr. Slow, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Great. So we got that solved. Let's go straight into the program. So as you know, Mr. Clifford Hicken, who is an assistant commissioner of police, who was performing the duties or acting as deputy police commissioner, there is some question about that, is now performing the duties or acting as the deputy police, as the police commissioner. So let me break this down. I said it's a little convoluted there. So Mr. Clifford Hicken, whose substantive position is an assistant police commissioner, has been acting or performing the duties of deputy police commissioner operations. And now he is being appointed to act as police commissioner. And there's a contention that that is unconstitutional. Why it's unconstitutional? Because the Constitution requires that anyone who's appointed police commissioner must do so by the president only after consultation with the opposition leader and consultation with the chairman of the Police Service Commission. And before the Police Service Commission chairman can consult with the president or accept that consultation, he must first consult with the other members of the commission. Do I have that right?
Yes, basically you have it correct. Just to try that Mr. Hicken, prior to his purported appointment, he was carrying out the functions of Deputy Commissioner Operations. He wasn't acting in that capacity. We need to make a distinction, clear distinction between a person carrying out the functions of an office and a person who is acting in that office.
Can
so
you
he was, as the Deputy Commissioner Operations, carrying out the functions of Deputy Commissioner Operations. And now he is, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Complete yours there. You can go ahead and finish what you thought. Can you hear me?
You're frozen. I didn't get to hear the last questions there.
No, I'm saying you can continue your thought. I kind of interrupted you there. I think we have that challenge with the internet again. Mr. Slow, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Okay, so let's see. Technicians? You back there? Can you hear me? You're not hearing me?
I'm hearing you, but not clearly. It's breaking up.
I think it's the internet on your side. Could you log out and log in back? I think that seemed to be the problem.
Yeah, I think the problem.
Are you hearing me now?
No, still breaking up.
Okay, could you log out and log back into the system, the studio? Can you repeat the procedure that the technicians had you do just now?
Yeah, let me try logging out again.
Sure. Okay, so while the technicians and Mr. Slow behind this in backstage try to solve that, let me go over what we were discussing just now. Everybody keep sharing this link. Share the link, everybody. Share the link. This is a very important topic. Now, as we had said before, Mr. Clifford Hicken is a substantive assistant police commissioner. That's his appointment. He was then, when the PPP came to power, he was then made to perform the duties of deputy commissioner for, is everybody hearing me? I just had this interruption there. I can see that my microphone was, yeah, you're hearing me. Text me, let me know if you're hearing me. So when the PPP came to power, obviously that's their boy. He's a PPP guy. They wanted him to perform the duties of Deputy Police Commissioner for law enforcement, sorry, for operations. That position was previously occupied by Mr. Paul Williams, who is a Deputy Police Commissioner. And there were three. You had Miss Maxine Graham, Paul Williams, and Nigel Hoppy. So Mr. Hoppy apparently was the most senior of the three. So whenever the police commissioner, the then police commissioner Leslie James was on leave, he would act. And Mr. Hoppy then became police commissioner when Mr. James went off. Miss Maxine Graham also went off on pre-retirement leave. So it was Paul Williams that left. Now, the PPP does not like Paul Williams because he's not a clown. He's not a puppet. He's not somebody they could manipulate. Plus, they suspect that he might be a PNC or coalition supporter. So they moved him. I happen to think that removing him and seconding him to something is illegal. But it was never challenged. So they moved him out of the way so they could get Clifford Hicken into this office of Deputy Police Commissioner. But he was never appointed. He was never appointed to act, or he was never appointed substantively. And that's what Mr. Slow was about to explain when we lost him. Let me see if he's back. Mr. Slow, can you hear me?
Yes, okay, I can hear you now. Let's hope it continues this way.
Let's hope it continues this way. I think somebody is disrupting your internet service there deliberately. But let's move on. So can you explain to our listeners the difference between performing the duties and acting as?
Well, all right. As I said, we need to make a clear distinction. First of all, let me say good night to all the viewers, good night to all the listeners. We need to make a clear distinction between someone who is acting in an office and someone who is performing the function in that office, especially under the police code, the police protocol, the public service rules. Now, when a person is performing the functions of the office, as Mr. Hoppy did from July 31st until he proceeded on pre-retirement leave just recently, the person continues to wear their substantive badge of rank. In the case of Hoppy, he was a substantive deputy commissioner. He continued to wear the substantive badge of rank. And he is not sworn in to act. He is not given an instrument to act. He just carries out the functions of. Now, when a person is made to act in that office, and I should say I am familiar with the process because when I was a member of the force, on 2 occasions, I was the senior assistant commissioner when the then Commissioner Green proceeded on duty out of the country. I got a letter to say that I would carry out the functions of the commissioner in the absence of the substantive commission. And that is the way it has been. So when a person acts in the office, the person wears the badge of rank, the person should be made to swear in the appropriate oath of office, and the person is given the appropriate instrument of that office. So that's a big difference between a person acting in that office.
We seem to. I hope the internet it's getting a little unstable there. Are you still hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
You're hearing me. Okay. Now, just in case your internet goes again, you do the same procedure. Just log in and log it back. That's interesting. So the announcement from the office of the president is that Mr. Hicken is acting as police commissioner, and he is wearing the badge of rank. Albeit he had it upside down on the first day, but he is acting based on, he is wearing the badge of rank. So he's acting. He's wearing a crown, a wreath, and a pip. So that's the badge of rank of the police commissioner. Now, what is the process for appointing someone to act as police commissioner?
All
I
right.
think, okay, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now.
All right. The Article 211.1 spells out the process for a commissioner of police to be appointed. And it says, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not reading, but it says that the appointment of commissioner and every deputy commissioner is the prerogative of the president. But before he can do so, he must have a consultation leader of the opposition and the chairman of the police office commission consult with the other members of the commission. So that is what the Constitution says about the appointment to the office of Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioner of Police. Now, interestingly, Article 211.2 basically says that the same process must be gone through to appoint someone to act in those offices. So if you want someone to act as a commissioner, you want someone to act as a deputy commissioner, according to Article 211.2, there must be meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the police service commission, who must first consult.
We're losing you again. You're frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now, intermittently. I'm hearing you intermittently.
I think you're messing with your internet. They know you're doing this interview. Everybody keep sharing the link. We're going to talk about the appointment of the police commissioner acting, whether or not it's unconstitutional or it's constitutional, unconstitutional, constitutional, and what the real process is. And bear in mind, Mr. Snow is the former chairman of the Police Service Commission. So not only is he experienced in hiring police officers and senior officers of police work, he was also acting as a deputy or performing the duties of a deputy police commissioner while he was assistant. Now, let me ask you this. I want to go straight to the point that you just spoke about. Now, the so-called Attorney General, Al told this to the Starbuck News. No one can substitute their opinion and their choice for that of the president. Because as you just read, the president has the prerogative of appointing the police commissioner. That's his constitutional role. He said, Nandalal continued, the president may choose who he wishes. Nandalal says that. I don't believe that is so, but if that's how PUP governs. Nandalal said on his weekly issue in the news program, he also says that there is no legal consequence for the president on his choice of deputy commissioner, police commissioner, Clifton Hicken. He's so ignorant because the man is not a deputy commissioner either. For the position of acting. So here's the Attorney General confirming that he's acting as police commissioner. Now, the Attorney General went on to say, quote, the appointment was done in keeping with the Constitution. And then he went on to say, there is no opposition leader and there is no police service commission. So that is their argument, that there is no opposition leader and that there is no police service commission. So the president can do what he wants. In other words, what they're arguing is complete legal nonsense, because you can't violate the Constitution if a certain provision of it is not in place, or the instrument to carry out that provision is not in place. For instance, the Constitution requires the president to appoint, excuse me, to appoint a chairman of the Elections Commission after the opposition leader would have submitted a list of 6 nominees to the president. And it says, there's a proviso that says those nominees must be acceptable to the president. Nevertheless, the president can't go out on thin air and just pick somebody. It will have to be a nominee sent to him on a list of 6 by the opposition leader. Now, Nanalal's argument here is if there's a vacancy in the Elections Commission chairman position in the Office of Elections Commission, then the president could just willy-nilly say, okay, there's no opposition leader, so I'm going to just appoint a chairman of the commission. And we know that the CCJ is ruling, they can't do that. So obviously, it's the same principle. If an opposition leader is not available and the Police Service Commission, sorry, not available, is not appointed, and the Police Service Commission has not been appointed either, it means that the president cannot appoint a police commissioner. Simple, isn't that so?
Well, that is my view. Having read the Constitution, I am no lawyer, but as my colleague and co-accused Conway said recently, I have been exposed to lots of training. I have been a senior police officer for a number of years. I have been, as I said, exposed to training both locally and overseas. I think I have enough common sense, and I can read and I can understand. And based on what is in the Constitution, Article 211(1) and 2, I am of the view, and I have expressed it before, that in the absence of the leader of the opposition and the Police Service Commission, no appointment to the office of commissioner or deputy commissioner can be lawfully made. And I would hope that this is ventilated in a court of law, so that we can understand what it is. But it's not, and as I indicated before, I was involved in this process. I was involved intimately in this process when I was the chairman of the Police Service Commission. So I'm familiar with what has to take place in order to appoint a commissioner and deputy commissioners.
Well, Mr. Slow, you're in good company. I contacted 3 judges today, and I sent them the Constitution, and I sent them the release from the opposite president. One is a judge in Guyana. The second is a judge in the Commonwealth. And the third is an appeals court judge in the United States. Appeals court. And all of them said the appointment of Clifford Hicken is unconstitutional. There's no question about it. One of them even went on to say, the Court of Appeal judge saying, no court could uphold that. None. Any court that uphold that will be reversed. So here, this is my question to you. Why do you think that attorneys who know the law and other people in society are silent with regard to this unlawful appointment of a police commissioner acting?
Well, we live my view is that we live in a society that people are very, very fearful of victimization. So a lot of people are very quiet. Let me give you an example. On July 28, 2021, last year, the Police Service Commission, which I chaired, promoted 132 ranks lawfully to various ranks in the police of the in the force. And the government said that they're not going to recognize the promotion. And they're all very, very silent. And why? Because people feel intimidated. People are afraid of being victimized. And I can only conclude that the reason people are not speaking out is that people are fearful that they are going to be victimized. People are going to come after them. And that is my view.
Well, that is one. So somebody told me that today. I asked someone who's a former senior police officer, why aren't they speaking out with the with regard to this unlawful appointment of police commissioner? And he said to me, well, Mr. Hicken should know that everything he does would be unlawful. I said, why don't you say that publicly? He said, well, you know, I'm not a politician. But this is not politics. This is the rule of law. This is the rule of law. And I hope everybody just keeps sharing this link. This is the rule of law. And the government, this installed government, is not even a government, it's a regime. They think that they're above the law. They think that they don't have to comply or implement the rule of law in Guyana. They think they're above it. You have some scatterbrain attorney general talking nonsense about the Constitution was complied with. And then let me go on to quote the president, the installed president, Irfan Ali. He said, when the time comes to the appointment of a police commissioner, the process will be followed as defined in the Constitution. Then he went on to say the Constitution was complied with regard to the appointment of Mr. Clifford Hicken. So, in other words, what the PPP is telling us is the Constitution is whatever we demonstrate it is, not even say, whatever we demonstrate it is. How can we as Guyanese accept this and then also claim as though we're a schizophrenic society that it's a democracy?
Well, let me say this. This is no longer about the individual Clifton Hicken. It can no longer be about Clifton Hicken. It has to be about the Constitution. And I think we are on a slippery slope, because you may recall that not so long ago, the commission that I chaired was, we felt, unconstitutionally suspended from office, and we moved to court for that. We claimed it was a violation. It is clear, just like this case, the provisions of the Constitution, we argue, was not followed, and therefore the action was unconstitutional. Here again, within a year, we have another action that is deemed by a lot to be unconstitutional. So we are on a slippery slope, and it's a dangerous situation that we're in, because it would appear as the Constitution doesn't mean anything. People just show it over the shoulder or someplace and just do whatever they want to do. So that is why, as I've said before, I would hope that some person or persons decide, let's take this thing to the court and let the court decide whether this action is constitutional or not.
Right. Do you think that there's an agenda, just based on your observation, you don't have to answer this question. Do you think there's an agenda to create a one-party state in Guyana, such as Russia and China?
Well, I don't know. But all I can say, the two cases that were cited there, and people have cited more. These are things that I know of. That's the suspension of the Police Service Commission on 16th of June 2021, and now this appointment. We are in a dangerous trend. We're in a dangerous downward trend where it would appear as though the Constitution of Guyana, which I was told many years ago, is the supreme law of the land, and all should comply. That's what I was told. So apparently there is no, that principle is no longer valid. The Constitution, and you know, this thing is laughable, because the president himself is reported to have said that the reason he had to take this action was because out of necessity. He invoked the doctrine of necessity. Now you cannot invoke, again, this is my reading, you cannot invoke the doctrine of necessity and claim to have followed the Constitution. It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction, because my reading tells me that when the doctrine of necessity is invoked, it's because of some grave situation which forces you to go around or to bypass
the rule of. So, but it could not be of necessity, because the person who just came off from head of the force, which is Mr. Hoppy, was performing the duties of a police commissioner, and they lawfully can direct Mr. Hickens, not appoint, I don't know if it's appointment, but direct him to perform the duties of a commissioner until the commissioner is appointed. They can do that. So I don't even think Arfinali understands what it means to say, much less invoke the doctrine of necessity. It's absolute garbage.
Well, let me say this. Let me walk our viewers, our listeners, through the sequence of events.
Yes.
Mr. Leslie James, who was the last commissioner of police, got, by way of letter dated 30th of July 2020, proceeding on, I think, 270 odd days leave from the 31st of July 2020. Mr. Nigel Hoppy was then told that he would be performing the functions of commissioner. He performed the functions of commissioner from then until, as I indicated before, he proceeded on leave over the past weekend. But interestingly, Mr. Leslie James retired from the 1st of April 2021. So the office of commissioner became vacant on the 1st of April 2021. At that time, there was a police service commission. There was a leader of the opposition. So there was nothing preventing the president from initiating the process to appoint either a substantive commissioner or someone to act in that position.
Exactly.
So
They're
these
not
things have
interested
to be
because they want
clarified.
now.
These have to be laid bare.
Now I'm happy you said that because I want to segue straight into this other point. You told the nation when this whole thing, when the government wanted to basically break up the commission so they could get their people in there, that Orphan Ali asked you, what about his people? Why can't his people, who were some of whom were facing disciplinary action, why couldn't they be promoted? Do you think they have now appointed their people to to these offices that your commission did not? Acting police commissioner, and I noticed they're referring to Mr. Brutus, Calvin Brutus, whose substantive position is a senior superintendent. I see Nigel Happy and the Minister of Home Affairs referring to him as deputy commissioner. Can you hear me? Mr. Slow, can you hear me?
Well, we're having difficulty in the gremlins are at work, so we're having difficulty. I can hear you now.
Good. I think somebody's trying to jam your internet. No, I was saying that you told the nation during sometime last year or the year before that the president asked you why your commission, when he obstructed the work of the commission, or interfered rather with the work of the commission against the law, he said to you why you can't promote my people or what's happened to my people, something worse to that effect. And his people, including Calvin Brutus, these were people who, some of whom were facing disciplinary action and were not eligible to be promoted. Now, do you feel that this appointment reflects the president's view that his people needed to be in the office of police commissioner and deputy police commissioner? And at that point in time, did he name the names? Did he name the names of my people, quote unquote?
Well, when during the conversation that I referred to on many occasions, names like Karimbash, names like Brutus were mentioned. I made that clear. There was no doubt, and those were the two persons I had to advise at disciplinary matters pending. And as far as I'm aware, those matters are still pending. And you know, those of you who have been following the matter, Brutus went to court, and on the 28th of June 2021, the Chief Justice clearly stated that she found him to be self-serving, and she pointed out that persons with pending this, the Police Service Commission can take into consideration pending disciplinary matters in not considering persons for promotion. That was the ruling. That is the ruling of the Chief Justice. So it was clear to me, because names were named in the context that these people should be considered or these people should be promoted. And then when it was pointed out, because I'm referring to the conversation on the
I think they just jammed Mr. Slow's internet again. All right, so Mr. Slow, if you're hearing me, can you log out of the studio and log in back? Or if the technician can do that. Yeah, so there you go, Mr. Slogan, having issues with his internet. So I want to fill in the blanks in the meantime. Mr. Slow was telling us that installed President Ali, attempted to interfere with the work of the Police Service Commission in the execution of his functions. And as you know, that's against the Constitution. But the PP government doesn't care about the Constitution. They want to do whatever they want to do so that they could have absolute control of the state apparatus. They don't think an opposition is relevant until they're in opposition, right? So Mr. Ali called Mr. Slow, as you know, and said that he wanted his people promoted. And included in that list was Hicken, Brutus, and Karimbash. Karimbash is now head of SOCU, even though he's facing disciplinary action for sexual misconduct. A senior police officer in any other country, he would have been probably fired, right? Calvin Brutus, he was also facing disciplinary actions, refusing the directive of the police commission and the police service commission, allegedly. And then when he was not placed on the list of promotion, he tried to stop the promotion and try to take legal action. The Chief Justice ruled against him and said that he was self-serving. That's what Mr. Slow was saying. Let me see if Mr. Slow is back. I'm getting signal from the technicians. Mr. Slow, continue. Welcome back.
Yes, I'm back. I am back. So I'm saying that it is clear. Well, look, let me put it this way. I got the distinct impression that certain people were preferred to be promoted. However, based on the policy of the commission, those persons could not have been considered. You know, it's a consideration. They could not have been considered because of pending disciplinary matters. And that is what caused all the issues. Because notwithstanding the rules, notwithstanding the regulation, notwithstanding the policies of the commission, and I must say that those policies weren't put together by the commission that I chaired. They were there before. We met them there. And they were good policies, and we continue to carry out those policies. And that is what landed us, the commission, in hot water, so to speak, because people wanted a certain way. And we said, no, we're going to do the correct thing. And that did not find favor with the powers that be.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, let me see what happened there. Okay, yeah, okay, you're still with us. I received a document, which seemed to be an internal document from the Ministry of Home Affairs, that said Mr. Hicken has accumulated over 200 days of sick leave. Now, I've also seen a letter from somebody, and you don't have to comment on this if you don't know, from somebody stating that the police does not have the correct record of Mr. Hickens' age, and that they suspect that he's beyond the age of retirement. When you were in the Police Service Commission, without revealing any secrecy of the Police Service Commission, have these two issues, or were these two issues brought before the commission about massive accumulation of leave and a question about whether or not the police has an accurate record of his age?
Well, let me address the one about accumulation of leave. You said sick leave. It couldn't be sick leave because I guess you mean annualized leave. Right, annualized vacation leave. Now, I commented on another program not so long ago that something seems to be wrong with the old system in the public service as it relates to police officers and perhaps even people other than police officers accumulating leave in contravention of the public service rules. The public service rules are clear when it comes to annualized vacation leave. In the case of senior officers in the police force, they get 42 days annualized vacation leave per year. The rule is that you must apply for your leave every year. And having applied, an arrangement can be made for the leave to be deferred to the next year. Because of the exigencies of the service, they might defer to the next year. The rule says that you cannot defer more than 2 consecutive years. I recall when Dr. Luncheon was of the Presidential Secretariat, he had caused to circularize the ministries, including the police, to tell people that, look, you ought to apply for your leave and go on your leave. Because one of the things they get wrong, that if you fail to apply for your leave, it can be forfeited. It's not automatic that it can be deferred to the next year. If you fail to apply, it means that you don't want it, and it can be forfeited. I have noted, as I've said, not only now, but a long time now, when Mr. Leslie James proceeded on leave on the 31st of July 2020, he actually retired on the 1st of April 2021. Now Mr. Appy has proceeded on leave, I think is on the 26th of March this year, and he goes into retirement on the 1st of January 2023. It says about 9 months leave he is on. I don't know how many days leave Mr. Hicken has, but I suspect that given that trend, he and others have lots and lots of leave. And based on my experience, what is going to happen once you're favored? Let me say this, and time will tell. Once you are favored, what they do, they will pay you in lieu of leave. So if you have 200 days leave, they will say, well, look, you go on 60 days, and we're going to pay you for the 140 days leave. That happens to the favored ones. If you're not favored, and it is quite clear that Mr. Appy, Nigel Appy is not favored, that's why he got on a 9 months leave. Because if he was favored, they would have said, continue to work, and we're going to pay you for some of the leave. In terms of the board certificate issue, as I've said before, I am not the godfather. I don't know what the gentleman's age is. The record, my memory says that the record that was presented says that he was born sometime in July, I think, 1968, which means that he's approaching his 54th birthday. I want to remind viewers that public servants retire at 55. Again, unless you're favored, because when you're favored, you get extension. You know the case with Mr. Larry Lewis, when he reached 55, he was extended for, I think, 2 or 3 years in the first instance until he got to 60. When he got to 60, an attempt was made to further extend him beyond 60. And the lawyer, parliamentarian Debbie Barker, went to court and challenged it because she says, and it was found to be true, that the law does not allow to be for the commissioner to be served beyond the age of 60. Therefore, in 2001, Commissioner Lewis had to reluctantly go into retirement.
And, you know, just an observation, the police, the PPP always try to use black police commissioners against the black population. And then that's why they extend their service on a month-to-month basis once they retire. So who knows? Let's look out for, you know, this same strategy. I want to follow up on something you said. Now, you said, based on your recollection of the record, and this is public knowledge, you know, the police commissioner's age is public knowledge. He is approaching his 54th birthday in July. Now, if he has indeed 200 days leave, sick leave, he should be going off on pre-retirement leave very soon, or should have. Even with, let's stipulate that that's the correct year of birth, you know, 1968. People are arguing that it's before that. No, I'm not sure how that could be possible. But let's assume that 68 is the age, and he has over 200 days leave. A year only has a certain amount of days, if I am not if I am not mistaken. So it seems to me that as of July or as of December 2022, Mr. Hicken should be off on pre-retirement leave just like everybody else. Is that your calculation?
But let me say this, because you're getting some issues again. Let me say this in terms of retirement again from the police force. Now,
but
the year
can
before
you get that issue, please redo the process that the technician advised.
All right. Let me say this. And this is standard practice in the police force, from the ministry, from the Public Service, Police Service Commission. The year before a person retires, he gets a letter from it emanates from the Ministry of Home Affairs to advise that person that he should be retiring at a particular date. They calculate the amount of leave that you're supposed to get and indicate quite clearly which day your retirement leave should begin. And that happens the year before. So if someone is to retire in 2023, in the year 2022, this year, they would have been given the letter indicating how many days leave they have and when they would retire. Because if you're born in July, it means that you will retire on the first day of August of that year. That is how it works. So if you're born, in the case of Mr. Appy, I think his birthday is in December. So therefore, he retires on the 1st of January 2023. That is how the system works. So all those who are to retire in 2023 should have gotten or will get their letter indicating that they are going to be going into retirement in the year 2023.
Right. And now let me ask you, in terms of retirement, now let's assume somebody, we know that let's carry on. Let's use the same example. Somebody who has 200 days leave. The year has what, 365 days. So you're saying that they will get a circular from the ministry or a directive from the ministry that here, you're going to be retired in 2023. Therefore means you can only work for 165 days of that year, and then you must proceed on your 200 days leave. Is that how it works?
Well, I didn't get the full thing, but basically what it's saying is that, yes, you get a letter, you get a personal letter. It emanates from the ministry to the commissioner. The commissioner writes you a format. He thanks you for your service in indicating to you that you will be proceeding on leave on this particular date, and you'll retire on a particular date, and that your leave prior to retirement will commence on a particular date. That is computed and sent to you so that you know that. And one of the things about that, people look forward to that when you're retiring, because once you get that letter, you get an advance on your gratuity. You go to go through a process where you make an application and you get 2/3 of your gratuity. People look forward to that. And when you finally retire, having submitted the necessary returns and so on, then you get the remainder of your computed benefit, gratuity that is.
Some look forward to that and some look forward to staying on. Let me ask you another question. Now, I want to come back to the constitutionality of this issue, because part of this whole issue is because there's not a police service commission. Now, I know that you are chair of the police service commission, but the service of the commission was not allowed to end. The commission wasn't allowed to expire its constitutional term because the president attempted to suspend it because you guys weren't promoting the people they want. They want to break up the commission so they could get their people in there. That's the PPP. They break up everything. I don't know why Guyanese don't do the same thing in response to them. But the commission that you chair did not. The PPP tried to suspend it. The matter was taken to court. The government tried to block the courts from hearing the matter, because by the time the matter came up, the commission's constitutional term had expired. My question to you is, what is the status of that lawsuit? Okay, I think we lost Mr. Slow. Hopefully he'll be back. The technicians would indicate to me when he is back. I'll also see when he re-enters the studio. So that's the situation we have. Just to recap, we have a question about whether or not the accurate record of Mr. Hickens's age is lodged with the police force. And second, whether or not he has over 200 days leave and should either be proceeding on leave shortly like everybody else, or should have already proceeded on leave given and take the year of his actual birth. And second, we've clearly established that the president doesn't have the authority under the law to appoint a police commissioner on his own. Mr. Slow, I think, is back. Let's see if we could get him. You're back. Go ahead. Mr. Slow, can you hear me? Go ahead. Mr. Slow, can you hear me? So we're not getting Mr. Slow back. This is really
yes.
Bad. You're back? I definitely think somebody's messing with your internet.
Yes, I'm back.
You're back.
Obviously, okay. It's obvious. It's obvious. It's obvious.
Just that they're going to give you blackout. It means that they're watching the show. They're watching the show, which is good. The question I was asking is part of this whole issue about the constitutionality of the police, the appointment of this gentleman that acts as police commissioner, derived from the fact that there is not a police service commission. And that's the whole there's a whole background to that, because while you were chairman of the Police Service Commission, the president, installed president, tried to suspend the commission because you guys were not adhering to his interference or lawful interference and not promoting the people he wanted you guys to promote, even though some of them weren't eligible for promotion. What is the status of that lawsuit? And I also know that the government tried to block the court from hearing that lawsuit, saying because by the time the matter came up in court, the constitutional life of the commission had passed, that the court couldn't hear the matter. What's the status of those two cases?
Well, I think I didn't get the full question because again, it's breaking up. But can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
What's the status of the two matters that the two court cases that arise under the Yes, I'm inquiring about the cases. I'm inquiring about the two cases that the commission took to court, where the government tried to suspend the commission and then tell the court they couldn't hear the matter.
Oh, well, that matter, let me just walk you through on the listeners and the viewers. The commission, myself and Mr. Conway received a letter from the Prime Minister to show cause why we should not be removed from the commission. That was in early June. And a few days after that, all members of the commission got a similar letter for us to show cause why we should not be removed. In the first case, they said that we were charged for a conspiracy to commit fraud, and that was the reason why that letter was sent. And in the second case, they said that the commission joined with politicians to challenge the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, and they claimed that was the basis for asking us to show cause why we should not be removed from the commission. Well, we responded to those letters, and notwithstanding our response, detailed as it was, on the 16th of June, 2021, we each received a letter from the president saying that the commission was suspended with immediate effect on the 16th. Now, interestingly, the life of the commission was due to end automatically on the 8th of August, 2021, and the Chief Justice was scheduled to rule on the Brutus matter on the 18th of June, 2021. So 2 days before the ruling of the Chief Justice, the commission was suspended. That ruling did not, she did not hand down the ruling on the 18th, but she did so on the 28th of June. Now we went to court. As I indicated earlier, the provisions of the Constitution, Article 225, were not followed in the suspension of the purported suspension of the commission. So we challenged it in court. Our lawyers, Mr. Selwyn Peters, Mr. Dexter Todd, we went to court and challenged it. Now, when we challenged that, the president was named as a respondent. So when the matter came up on the first instance before Justice Gino Prasad, the Attorney General made an application for the president to be struck off as a respondent because he claimed that the president is immune, he enjoys immunity under the Constitution, and should not be named in the lawsuit. The court ruled that that was correct. So the president name had to be removed. And then on the very day that that ruling came down, the Attorney General then filed an application to have the matter discontinued because by that time, the life of the commission had ended. And he argued that since the life of the commission came to an end, the matter should not continue. Now, there are the legal arguments in respect to that. And on the 8th of March this year, that's last month, Justice Zeno Prasad handed down his ruling and said basically the matter should be continued, even though the commission life has come to an end. He said that, well, a lot of legal terms were used. Basically, what he said, instead of the matter being the Police Service Commission versus the Secretary versus the Commissioner versus the Attorney General, he will substitute my name because I am, at the time I was the chairman and I had signed the affidavit. So it will now be Paul Slow versus the Police Service Commission versus. So that is where it is. On the very day that decision was handed down, on the 8th of March 2022, the Attorney General indicated that he's going to the full court and he's going to appeal that, because he said, and the court held, Justice Jino Prasad held, that this matter was of sufficient public interest for the action of the president to be examined by a competent court. So that is where we are. The Attorney General has appealed that to the full court, so we are awaiting that decision.
But is it ironic that whenever they're not in government, they challenge everything that the president does and says that the president is not above the law? But when they're in power, nobody must challenge the president because the president is a god and a king and cannot be challenged. He's a, I mean, I don't understand these guys. They're such hypocrites. But obviously, the president's actions are not.
This thing is more laughable than that.
Right.
Because if you go back to the suspension or the purported.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm saying go back to the purported suspension of the commission. Our lawyer wrote to the president to say that the action was unconstitutional and that he had advised the members of the commission to continue performing their function, which we did. Now, the Attorney General's position is that once the president makes such an order, it is not for the commission and the lawyers to determine, and then you call my name directly. It's not for Paul Slow to determine whether the president or the president's action was constitutional or not. It's for only a competent court. And he said, well, then you need to go to court for the court to say whether the president acted constitutionally or not. So we went to court. He said that we should go to court for a court to so rule. We went to court. And now he's fighting for the matter not to be ventilated in court. So this thing, I mean, you can't make these things up. That is exactly what has happened.
They think they're above the law. That's a fact. They think they're above the law. They think that nobody must question them. They must run the country however they want. I mean, that's how they demonstrate to us, right? That they could do whatever they want. The final question on this subject. So Justice Jino Prasad ruled that yes, the matter may continue, not in the commission names, but in your name, because you signed the affidavit. So this matter is continued. And the reason why it has to continue, it has implications beyond the life of the commission. It is they're denying the people the promotion that the commission promoted. So obviously the matter got to be trashed out in court. You see, that's the thing. They're thinking along their brains, right? They think that they could stop the matter, and then they're going to say, if the court has stopped the matter, they're going to say, well, the court stopped the matter, and the promotions are no longer in effect or in contention. There was no promotion. I think that's what they're trying to do, rather than obey the rules. The president cannot interfere in the commission. The final thoughts on this subject, the commission and the appointment of the police commissioner. Then I want to move on quickly to the refusal to arrest the attorney who assaulted the policewoman. You're not hearing me again? Can you hear me? Mr. Slow, can you hear me? Can you log out and log back in again? Mr. Slow, I guess you heard me there now.
Let me try. Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
You can hear me now. Okay. I was saying, if you have any final thoughts before we move on to the other subject.
Well, as I've said before, I would want to say this whole issue now, as I alluded to earlier, is not about the individual. This now is about whether we are going to be following the provisions of the relevant articles of the Constitution. That is what this whole issue about now. It's not, I see people have come to, on Mr. Hicken's side, say he's going to do a good job, and there's a big PR program going on now, big PR campaign has been launched. That is not the issue. It has gone beyond that now. It has gone beyond whether he will do. I hope for Guyana's sake and for the sake of the force that he will do a good job. I don't think he will, but I hope for the sake of the country and for the sake of the force, that he will prove me wrong and he will do a good job. But it has gone beyond that. It's not about that any longer. It is about the supreme law of the country, the Constitution, whether a person should be allowed to disregard these sacrosanct provisions of the Constitution. That is what the issue is all about. And as I've said before, I hope and I pray that this matter is challenged so that it can be properly ventilated in a court of law. Because I have said that based on what I have read, I am no legal person. I repeat, I am not a lawyer. But when you read any layman, any person with common sense, any person with a little bit of comprehension, when you read Article 211, 1 and 2, you don't have to be any legal luminary to understand what it is saying. It is clear as crystal that if the president appoints a commissioner and deputy commissioners, it says that before he does that, he has to have meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition. He also has to have consultation with the chairman of the Police Service Commission, who must first consult with the other members. And then it is significant, Article 211.2, because that says that the same process must be employed if you want to appoint someone to act in those offices as well. Because I've heard people say, oh, well, the appointment is not substantive, the appointment is active. But the Constitution says that is the same process has to be undertaken for acting appointment. And therefore, I'm saying any layman, any person with reasonable comprehension, well, I shouldn't say that, because it would appear that people who you would think have reasonable comprehension have read those same two, that article and those two sections and interpreted differently. So let me correct.
They don't care. Well, they're contention. Finally, they're content. As you see, what this installed attorney general said, there is no opposition leader, there is no commission, so the president doesn't have to obey the Constitution, which is complete garbage when it comes to constitutional doctrine. If there is no persons in a position where the Constitution requires consultation, it therefore means you cannot go forward to fill the position. It's simple. So, but they don't care about that. They think they know the law. And as you said, that matter will be ventilated in court. Share the link, everybody. This is going to be a hot session. We want to talk about the police failure to arrest an East Indian attorney connected to the PPP who assaulted a policewoman. But just before I go on to that, I'd like to include the audience sometime. Somebody just sent me a question here. Where in today, the police, I know the person is talking about. Let me don't read the question. So, there was a statement came out from the police force today, where the relative of a Sergeant Sutton from immigration criticized the force and accused them of removing him unjustly or unfairly from the officer cadet program at the Guyana Defense Force. The force issued a statement laying out all the guy's qualification, saying that he didn't pass maths and he failed a physical. They just say, well, you know, he was not eligible or whatever it is. He was not fully qualified. They laid out everything so as to sabotage this young sergeant or exact vendetta on him because his family spoke out. Is that something that's normal in the police force? Have you ever seen the police force issue such a statement where they went through a very detailed history of somebody's qualifications and then conclude that he was not qualified to get on the officer cadets program because he didn't pass mathematics at CXC, but he has a degree from the University of Guyana?
Well, you know, it's sad. I read it today and I was shocked. And I should not have been, but I was shocked. I read it, the whole details there of the rant. I mean, it is sad, and I think that's the corporate communication unit at work. And I have referred to them.
But they don't function independently. You have to take directives from the administrator. The corporate unit doesn't function independently.
This type of things, and it is so unprofessional. It is so unprofessional because I know over the years they have had many persons who did not make the cadet course because they did not have the requirement. And conversely, there have been persons who were sent on the course, sent on the program, and did not have the necessary requirement. I know of one of the current prominent senior officers who, when he went there, did not have the necessary qualification. Well, he completed the course, and he had some issues getting moved from the cadet to the other thing. But it is not unusual for persons to be sent on the program, even though they did not have the full requirements to go. Whether that should be is another question, but it is not unprecedented. It is not unusual. So it is sad when I saw the thing today. I said to myself, another low for the organization.
Right. And so let me be very clear. Guyana should condemn the police force for this vulgar attack on this young man, saying that he was unqualified. As far as I'm concerned, he is qualified to get into the cadet program, which I'm very familiar with, because he has a university degree. And also, he's not qualified to study law, to go and do law, because he has a first degree. So if he is qualified to do law, how the hell is he not qualified to go into the officer cadet program? And one of the other things is that they also claim that he didn't pass the physical or whatever it is. But I want to say to Sergeant Sutton, hold your head high. You're a bright young man. You're qualified. As far as I'm concerned, you should not even be in the Guyana police force. They have nothing to offer you, obviously. Let's move on to this young lady. It's alleged that
before you move off from this matter, I want to make this point. There are 3 systems to appoint cadet officers in the Guyana Police Force. 3 systems. Standing Order 22 spells out the 3. They have the first system that was implemented, that is the direct intake. But way back in 1958, Mr. Norman McLean, Mr. Cecil Skip Roberts, and Mr. Cecil Glasgow, they came straight from the Queen's College into the police force as officers. Then they went through training, and they were made officers. And then there was a lot of controversy. I'm in the process of writing about that. There was a lot of controversy. People felt that they were qualified members in the force, and to bring people from the road, as we would say, to make them officers, you were disadvantaging qualified people in the force. And that went to the National Assembly, and that discussion was held. And then they decided that suitably qualified members in the force would then be identified. So people like Mr. Lloyd Barker, Mr. Balam Ragabir, Mr. James Mentor were identified as the first set of internal cadets. So you had the external people from the road, they came in. And apart, when you had, I mentioned the first 3, then after that you had people like Mr. Larry Lewis, Mr. Lloyd Houston, Mr. Wab. I did the research. Those people came in. And then you said the internal cadet. And then there was a long pause with the internal cadet, I think from like 68 on to 1978, some a long pause after Mr. Derek Thompson. Then Mr. Green and Bombury and those bosses were appointed in the mid-70s. And another program came into being in 1980. The standard military officer codes that you refer to came about in 1980. Mr. Felix, Mr. Pearson, Basil, Danny, those persons, when they were the first person to go from the police on the standard military officer school. So you have 3 courses, three methods of becoming a cadet officer. So if it is that this man is qualified and you say is only the physical part or whatever, there's nothing preventing the force from making him an internal cadet. The order is there. Many persons were made internal cadets in recent times as well. I know that. So you don't have to go to the Guyana Defense Force as a standard military officers course to become a cadet. If you're a member of the police force and you are qualified, you can be promoted internal cadets. You have people who are promoted internal cadets up to a few years ago when I was a member of the commission. So this trash
so
what they're talking about
is a lie.
Pardon me?
The statement is a lie. They're misleading the public.
Statement may be in relation to him going to the standard military officer course,
right?
GDF. But I'm saying that there's nothing preventing the administration of the force, if they so desire, from making recommendation, not now perhaps, because there's no police service commission. The service commission can appoint a person as an internal cadet without going on the standard military officers course. And more than that, if the man is so qualified, they can promote him to assistant superintendent on probation if they want to. They can promote into assistant superintendent on probation. Not so long ago, several persons were promoted to that rank on the commission. So this is what they're talking about, trying to belittle the guy and to say all this thing is trash.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is hit out, lash back at him for because his family spoke out. It seems as though that is this. They're working in tandem with the government. Once you speak out against them, they want to sabotage you. They want to belittle you. They want to victimize you. They want to discriminate against you and shut you out from the rest of society. And I'm going to come back to that later. But thanks for that information. That's very important. I'm going to follow up on that. Anybody who knows Sergeant Sutton, please send him this information and let him know that that statement is misleading. Now, let's go on to this young lady who was on guard duties at former Chancellor Cecil Kennard's home. Sorry, not Cecil Kennard. Carl's, I don't know why. Somebody just said something over Cecil Kennard across there. Actually, the person saying that Cecil Kennard did not have guards, and he was when he was Chancellor, retired Chancellor of the Judiciary, didn't have guards. Anyway, that's not its contention here. What is in contention is that she says the son assaulted her, spat on her, chased her out of the compound. We've heard the tape of him chasing her out of the compound. She says she went outside of the compound, across the street to a business establishment. He came behind her there, accosted her, called her black monkey, made racial slurs against her, spat in her face or on her phone or something. And then she walked away. Later on, her sergeant brought her back there. And also, I'm going to give you a synopsis of everything and then allow you to comment. She submitted a statement. Well, the police was summoned. I guess somehow somebody summoned the police to the scene. They came on the scene. When they realized who it was, they left. And this is police from Alberton Police Station. Also, I understand that she submitted, based on her relatives, she submitted a statement to her her commanding officer, Senior Superintendent Retired Trotz, who claimed an investigation would be done. She also went to the Alberton Police Station and filed a report for assault. Nothing was done. Later on, somebody told me from the Guyana Police Force that the police force has decided not to investigate this case because she told her relatives and her friends, who then told people like me about the matter, and that the police force doesn't want to follow up anything that we comment on, so as to give the impression that we have influence in the country. Wow. So this is a fact. This was done. Then I understand that the force told her this directly. Somebody from the police force told her her assault would not be investigated because she spoke to Rickford Burke. Second, the young man, I understand the young man is saying he will not apologize, but apparently they're willing to settle this matter. The young lady is taking the matter to court. She has filed a $150 million lawsuit against him. What's your take on this case?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I don't know the lawyer. I know his father, retired Chancellor Singh, in whom I have a lot of respect. On all occasions when we interacted, it was a very nice, cordial interaction. I don't know the female constable. I don't know them. And all I know of this matter is what I have read in the news, what I've seen on social media. What I would want to say is that this matter is you have a very serious allegation made by the rank against the lawyer. Very serious allegation. And the least that could have happened was a thorough and proper investigation should have been done. I don't know if I'm not saying she's a liar. I don't know what transpired. And you need to go into these things, and they should have gone into it with an open mind. You get the statement. I understand based on what is that there might be some recording, which is evidence, and therefore do the investigation and let the chips fall where they may. But it is disturbing that a member of the force is making such a serious allegation, and no, the commissioner, the police association, the office in charge of the unit, no one, the corporate communication unit, the women, there's a women police association, no one has come out to say anything, not to say whether she's right or whether she's wrong, but just to say perhaps that based on the allegation that an investigation must be conducted. And it is very, very sad that even that basic step, regardless of who she might have complained to, regardless of who she might have vented her feelings to, the nature of the allegation warrants a thorough investigation.
Of course. And now we have politicians here saying that if that's the case, where the Guyana police force is basically in complicity with an attorney assaulting a police officer, that United States taxpayer dollars must not fund the force. We'll see where that goes. Now, also, a senior police officer has said to me that the police force has reports where this young man pulled a gun on 2 officers previously. Now, there's also another female officer who reported that the former chancellor himself pushed her out of his gate, physically pushed her out of the gate. None of these matters have been investigated, no discipline, and the police continue to send ranks, African Guyanese ranks, to the home of these people who these officers feel have been mistreating them because of their race, and nothing has happened.
Well, I don't know if I don't know the nature of those allegations. Some people are saying things now, but the question that I would have asked if I were in the force is that whether this was reported at the time. And if it was reported at the time, then you look to see what action was taken. I suspect that perhaps these things are now being stated, and they might not have been any report at the time, but they are disturbing reports. Let me say this. I spent a lot of time in the force, and I know some of these ranks performing these duties can be challenging. I know that. Because sometimes they are visited by their subordinates, they are found sleeping, they are found in all kinds of, sometimes the very people they are put to guard, that when that occurs, there is a process. A report is made and disciplinary action is taken against the rank. If it is that a person who is being guarded feel that, well, look, they're not getting the appropriate and adequate the guards anymore, but you cannot go about.
You've gone again. All right, so we've lost Mr. Slow again. Hopefully, we'll get him back soon. The technicians will work that again. Obviously, we're having some internet troubles in Guyana. Mr. Slow, if you're back, please let us know if you can hear us. Let me see. Looks like he's coming back. All right, we don't have him, do we? Technicians, do we have him? All right, so Mr. Slow's continue to have some internet challenges there. And we're talking, of course, about the incident of the policewoman who was standing guard at the chancellor's home, who accused the chancellor's son, Nirvan Singh, who's an attorney at law, of assaulting her, spitting on her, and chasing her out of the yard, which is obstructing her from doing her official duties as a police officer. Throughout this program, we've been having some trouble with Mr. Slow's internet, which I find fascinating. Obviously, somebody is trying to not let him speak, disrupting his internet. But he is actually in Guyana. Somebody's texting me here, telling me Mr. Slow might as well look out for his safety. I don't think Mr. Slow has anything to worry about. I think the people in Guyana should start realizing that this is a different era, and the things that the PP government did when they were in power from 1992 to 2011, they cannot do now. So I don't think anybody should be scared or afraid of the PPP. Let's see if Mr. Slow is back. Mr. Slow is back. Continue, sir.
Yeah, so I actually finished that train of thought, because I'm saying that if the forces are not satisfied with the service provided, then make a report, either discontinue, get some other agency to provide the service. But you should not go about, and again, these are allegations, they have not been proven, but allegations are that people are being abused physically and verbally, and that should not happen. Not only at this place, no place should it be allowed to happen, and that is where the administration of the force should get involved and deal with these matters in a very efficient manner. I'm not surprised that the report is that the head of the special constabulary has told them not to see anything because they're going to lose the job. And I'm not surprised.
He should be fired. Mr. Trust should be fired. Obviously, there's some level of incompetence. How can you have a policewoman? This is my personal view. How can you have a policewoman being assaulted? Now, police officers all across the Guyana police force should be very concerned that they can be abused by people in high authority and nothing will happen. Now, I am sure this, though, another thing that people over here are shocked about is that these people are sent to guard people's homes without any weapon. Now, in the United States, if Mr. Singh had pulled a gun on a police officer, he would not be alive today. That's a fact. And you know that. Even in some other countries in the Caribbean, you can't pull a gun on a police officer. If you touch a police, you think we could go and assault a police officer here? They'll shoot you. Or they'll beat you to, I mean, they use force. They're allowed to use force. And the fact that this is a female police officer who said that she exercised restraint because of the fact that this man is an attorney, she's there on guard duty, she just left and she walked out the yard or whatever it is. That's what her family and her friends are saying. How can the police force not investigate? Not even issue a condemnation. They're telling rich East Indian people, assault a black police officer and you get away with it. Isn't that what the message we should take away from this?
Well, that even, well, just a statement to say that, look, even if you don't have to condemn, but just a statement to say that the allegation is serious and we are going to investigate this allegation. That's some details, but one would expect that a statement would have been issued just to say that this report has been made and we are going to launch a thorough investigation to determine the truth or otherwise of this matter.
Last question, and I'm going to take it from the audience. Ask Mr. Slow what is his message to police officers given this incident, especially African Guyanese police officers and female police officers. Wow, very important question. What's your message to black officers and your message to police officers who see this happening?
Please repeat. I didn't get to hear that question.
So a member of the audience is asking, please ask Mr. Slow what is his message to police officers given this incident, especially black police or African Guyanese police officers. But it says Afro-Guyanese. I'm saying African. Afro-Guyanese police officers and women officers.
My message to the ranks would be to make sure that you perform your duty with diligence at all times. You're sent to perform a duty. Make sure you do that at your professional best. And when incidents occur, then you make your report, and hopefully your supervisors will follow up. And if they don't follow up, then you are within your right to take it to the next level. So don't be intimidated. I know that some of the police officers might be afraid to take action when certain reports are made, but you should not leave it there. And again, I always urge people to be very respectful. Speak to your superiors, or to anyone for that matter. You should be very respectful and bring the matter to their attention and make sure that it is properly followed up.
Okay, two other questions from the audience. I'm getting these messages in my inbox. I'm going to ask both of them together so that we can wrap up. One is there, I guess, process? Did she violate any police process by reporting this matter to her family and friends and retaining an attorney to file a lawsuit? And the other question is it against police procedure under these circumstances to file private criminal charges? Can you hear me?
I'm trying to pick up what was said there. I didn't get that clearly. Again,
So
the
the question is,
gremlins are at work. I didn't get that clearly.
did she bring any police standing order or procedure? This says process, but I'm interpreting to that being if she violate any police process by reporting this matter to her friends and family and going to an attorney to file a lawsuit. And the second question is, this question is actually being asked by an attorney at law in Guyana. And the question is it against any police procedure for her to file private criminal charges against Mr. Singh? He should know that. Mr.
Sorry,
Slow,
I didn't get the questions.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I didn't get the questions. Is there any way you can? I can hear you now. Yes.
You can hear me now. So the first question is it against any police procedure for her to have gone to an attorney and to complain about this matter and file a lawsuit and to tell her friends and relatives about it? And the second question from a lawyer, is it a violation of any police procedure for her to file private criminal charges against Mr. Singh?
Well, I think I got the gist of the first question. You're wanting to know if there's any police regulation or procedure which says that you must first get permission. Yes, there is such a convention. There's a standing order to the effect as well. But I think it is here now being used very selectively, because as Mr. Conway said a few days ago on the show, that he was certain that when Senior Superintendent Karim Bash took the Police Service Commission to court, and when Senior Superintendent Brutus took the Police Service Commission to court, they did not get permission from the commissioner to so do. So this regulation now is being used selectively to discipline, if at all they're going to be using it to discipline this rank, which is unfair.
Well, isn't that regulation unconstitutional in your view? I mean, the Constitution guarantees one, everybody equal protection, two, a right to an attorney. So if she feels that,
unless these things are challenged, yeah,
right,
many of these regulations are there, but so until and unless they are challenged, then we don't know how constitutional they are.
Right. I guess so. In the same vein, the other question, this is from a lawyer, is she violating any police procedure by filing criminal charges, if she does? Private criminal charges. Guess you're not hearing me. Can you hear me? I think we got the gist of it, Mr. Slow. I think you did well given the internet challenges. Can you hear me, sir? Okay.
Yeah,
so we're gonna wrap
again,
up.
Yes.
You hear me now? Okay, good. It says intermittent. Is there, in the same light, I guess your answer is gonna be the same thing. Is she violating any police regulation if she decides to file private criminal charges? Wow. Can you hear me? Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up here. Mrs. Slow is having some challenge hearing us. It was a very informative program, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. We'll do another conversation with Rickford Burke on Thursday, and then another one on Sunday.
The internet is not...
Yeah, we understand the challenges, and everybody understands. You did well.
That the internet has been...
Right.
Thank you, but it's a great pity that the internet did not cooperate on all the stoppages and so on. It's sad, but perhaps some other time we'll get better connection.
Yes.
And we can deal with other subjects. So what I'm glad for the opportunity to be here to explain these things to the audience. I hope that certain issues have been clarified. and I look forward to future invitations.
Thank you very much. And you had an audience of over 9,000 listening to you live. Thank you very much, Mr. Slow. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. Continue to stay safe. COVID is not over. So continue to wear your mask and social distance and wash your hands and sanitize your hands. Stay safe, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great week. God bless.